Hey, what's up everybody? So welcome back to another tutorial. So in this video, I'm going to explain about the pusher, and you see a lot of videos on pusher which are really confusing or not explained completely. So I'm going to create a video where you can learn about what pusher is. So pusher is actually a hosted API service which makes adding real-time data and functionality to a web and mobile application. So pusher work as a real-time communication layer between the server and the client. As you could see here, it's a bi-directional hosted API, right? We can create and maintain complex infrastructure so you can build the real-time features your user needs. So let's gonna look first the demo how we build that. So I'm gonna register the new user so you guys could see. So the purpose here is to create a new user, and each user must have its own notification. So let's gonna reach to the john@gmail.com. I'm gonna click on this register and let's log in there. And I'm gonna log in with the user that I have just created and add the password. Let's log in. So you see here that we have each user has its own task. So it means that I can create its own task specific to that John. Now let's add up here for the testing kit purpose, the title and the description. So as long as I submit that, and you could see here the alert, which I might think I need to click on here. So it's gonna take some time. Yeah. So here you see, so then it showed me the notification counter 1, right? So as long as I could add here, it's gonna show me the notification real time. And we also broadcast that. So I'm gonna show you right now. So you see here, now I have 2 counter notification without page refreshing. So this is basically the good feature that this pusher provides us, that it provides us the real time information. So I'm going to open up my the login functionality, and for my new tab, I'm going to write up here. Let's add the test in the description, and if I click on the submit button, and you could see here right now the notification is 3. Now it's going to show me 4. But as far as the broadcast concept, you see here it's also going to show me 4. So I'm going to log out with this user. Let's create a new user, register that. And I'm gonna add with my own abnation YouTuber, abnation@gmail.com, something like that. Register with a new user, and if I go back to the login, and let's add with the abnation and password. Now I have my on listing. You see here the counter which is showing. In the next coming videos, I'm going to click on here. You could see all the data related to that. That's what you guys could do as well. The main concept, how we can integrate the pusher. So, but still, I'm going to do this for your request, all up to your request. So if I click here, and now you guys could see that each user has its own counter notification. So all things are implemented, and you could see here, if I click OK, that's actually the user that we created later. So you could see that how good feature this provide the pusher real-time notification. So that's what we are going to implement from the scratch. So let's jump in and get started from here. Alright guys, so the first thing that you guys need to do is to go to my repository on my GitHub, and you can grab this URL and simply clone that if you are familiar with the Git clone, or if you haven't used Git before, so you can simply download that project and use that, right? So I'm going to do this with all the steps so you guys could do with me, and if you have any confusion, so you can easily work with me, right? So I'm going to grab this URL, and I want to give this link in the description as well so you guys could easily download that. I'm going to open up with my git bash here. So let me simply clone that git clone and paste that URL and press enter. Now the reason why I'm going to do this, because you can either do with the authentication, which Laravel scaffolding provide. You can use that authentication process by simply just adding the commands which are available. And if you want to work completely custom like me, so you can simply clone that. And I have that video even explain that in one of the video. I'll also give that link in the description so you could watch that, right? So let's gonna open up with that. So I'm gonna cd into the user-auth. So later on, I'm going to change that name to pusher notification so you guys have no confusion whatsoever. So let's going to open up with the code space.vs code, and you see here It's going to load up all the project inside my VS Code directory. And you see here that while cloning that, there are a few things which are missing that we need to do first. First thing is that we have to put our .env.examples. So simply grab that all and create here a new file .env and paste it all up here, right? So that's the first step. Next is that we have to compose or install. So I'm going to run it into it. So as long as it's going to take some time, I'm going to go directly to the pusher.com. Right, so I already have opened up my pusher.com, so you can create your account by just simply sign up, or I have my account already created, so I'm going to go into the sign in, and this is going to put me right inside the channels and the beams. So I'm going to work with the channels. So this is the sandbox plan. You could see that. And the first thing that I'm going to do here is let's first click on the manage. And I'm going to create a very new application just like with you. So I'm going to click on the create app, and let's give it the name of pusher-app-tutorial. All right, so I'm going to happy with the cluster, which is the AP2, which is basically for the Asia Pacific. So let's keep that AP2, and you have other options. You have a front-end application. If you have, I'm going to work with the backend, which is the Laravel, and just simply press the create application, and that's going to generate all things for you. So here is the dummy. Here you could see JavaScript here, and that's the pusher, which creates a new pusher. And we have a cluster here, and that's how we can create the channel and subscribe to the event, and we can pass the data and the other stuff that we're going to do all from the scratch. So you have on the left, you see here that we have some application keys here, so which includes the app ID, the key, and the secret, and the cluster. So that's what all we're going to add inside our .env file. So I'm going to go to my project and just scroll it down here. You see here we have push app ID, app key. So I'm going to put that all step by step. So let's first going to add the app ID here. So I'm going to paste it up here, and next we have the key. Let's going to add that to here, and let's going to grab the secret key here and add that right after that. And the last thing that is the AP2 cluster. So I'm going to add up here. All right, so once we are done with that, let's create the other stuff. So I'm going to look at my, it's keep installing that, right? So let's open up the terminal of VS Code by simply, you could do is click on the terminal, and you can press the new terminal if you want. I'm going to open up like that. So I'm going to clear that out, and let's give it the the very first model that I need here. I need the model to be PHP artisan make model, and let's give it the name of the model of message, and -m for migration. So yeah, it's not gonna give us the option right now until our composer install. Yeah, it's just installed, right? So I'm gonna write my very first model, which is the message -m, run the migration as well, -m for migration. Keep remember that you guys hardly could see -m. So I'm gonna highlight that. Next we need here is the task as well. So PHP artisan make model, and let's give it the name of task and -m for migration, right? And I also need to generate the key, which is PHP artisan key : generate. So this is gonna generate the .env. If I go scroll it up, you see here we have app_keys. All right, so that's the steps that we followed up. And now I also need to show you one more thing, which is if I'm gonna go to getting started here, and you also need to add a few things from here. If you scroll it down here as we have done, next we have to just go and run this into your console, composer require pusher. So this is gonna run the install the pusher-php-server. So I'm gonna paste it up here and press enter. So this is going to install the pusher for us. Next, we have broadcasting.php options. So we can also implement that once we need it. All right, so let's go back to your VS Code, and I'm going to open up my migration that I just created now. So database migration, and let's first look for the users, which I already have. So I'm going to go to my users. I have my first name, last name, email, and just keep that all same. I don't want to change my users. If you are working with me, or if you want to generate your own user information, completely fine. And next we are going to go to my messages. So that's where I'm going to create my migration. So so the next thing I'm going to do right up here. So let's define the table of type big integer and define here from. So basically this from is the user ID that this message is from that user, right? So that's why I bring up here from. You can even change that to user underscore ID just to make things more clear, but I'm happy with the from. That means that that is from this message is from that user. So I'm going to make this from. You can change it if you want. Next we have our dollar table, and we have some text as well, so I'm going to keep that text and change that to be message. And the last thing that we are here we require is the table, and I need here tiny integer, and actually just give me some auto option. So I'm gonna change that to is underscore read, means that it's for the message. If that is unread, that means the default value should be 0. So I'm going to add up here my default value, which should be 0. All right, so that's all I need for my messages. Next, I'm going to go my task. Very simple here. All I need is the title and the description. So let's going to add the string here and add the title. Next, I need here the text. So I'm going to grab it from here and change that to be description. All right, so that's all we need. So let's first look and see how our application, now it's also installed, it's also compiled perfectly. Now, if I go to my master.blade.php file and let me go to my resources, views, and we have our layouts here inside master.blade.php. I need to have a few things here. I need to add a few things. So make sure you have all things there. You have your bootstrap in if you are using with me, and there is a font awesome I just also add up here. I have my jQuery, which is very important, and we have some at the rate stack scripts. So this is basically we can easily push that to the other screens. I'm going to show you this all. So we have jQuery and we have bootstrap JS file. We have our validation for the jQuery. Now we have to also add one more stuff here. So simply grab it from here, this pusher.min.js file, and just add it right after your jQuery. That's all. All right, so that's all I need here inside my master.blade.php. I don't need more stuff to be changed here. All right, we are good to go with the .env file. All right, so I'm going to clear everything from here, and let's run the PHP artisan serve, but I need to first create one more thing. I need to go to my .env file and change that pusher_app, the name of my database. So I'm going to copy that and create the very same database inside my localhost /phpMyAdmin. Make sure you're using the PHP version. I have installed my very latest version. So if I'm going to show you PHP artisan -- version, and you see here I'm using 8.61.0. So make sure it's no confusion. Now if I create a new database, and let's add up here and create that one. It says something pusher_app, and if I want to create that incorrect database name pusher_app, why is that? So pusher_notification, yeah, that's created. Maybe it's some keyword or so. All right, so we created a database with the name of pusher_notif. You can I also have to change here pusher_notif, and now if I just want to try to run the migration, it should run all. So PHP artisan migrate, and you see the migration run successfully. And let's run the server PHP artisan serve, and let's go back here and see and register a new user. So I'm going to enter that one, and it redirect me back to the login. So all things are done customly, and I created that so you guys could learn more stuff here, right? So let's add our very first user, John Doe. So I'm going to register a new user, and it's user registered successfully. Let's go and write here john@gmail.com and add up here the password. And if I just try to log in here, and you see here the notification is basically 0 right now because we haven't implemented that anything here. All right, so let's close that here and just click on this never and all right, so now you see here, now we are logged in with the information. Now the next thing that I'm going to do here is to just create here the task and the description, so we can add the task and insert the data inside the database, and later on going to integrate our pusher. Right, so I'm going to go and close this .env file, and let's go inside your dashboard.play.php, and that's where I'm going to write my on code. So that's where I'm going to define my title and the description. All right, so let's go inside the content, and here I'm going to write the section. So the section tag, and right inside here I'm going to define the container dash fluid, which is the class for the bootstrap. You can learn that one if you want. And I also need to give the class for the container and just for some space margin from the top 4. Right, inside that I'm going to define my row. So row, and also I need to justify dash, let's add here justify dash content to the center. Next I need to have dot column. I need to bring some column here. So call dash sm dash 6 for small. So let's add up here dash sm dash 6, and I also need to have here the for medium call dash md dash 6, right? So let's define here form dash container, and right inside here I'm going to define the h2 for my heading and just give it the name of let's add task listing. I also need to define here a class for that, so class of text dash center and bg dash dark for background dark, and give it some padding. And I also need to give the color of font to be white, right? I just want to also wrap this text. So right after the h2 I need to define my form dash group, and right here inside that let's define the label for the text. So it's the first one should be the title, and right after the label I'm going to define my input field of type of text. Let's give it the class of form dash control and give it the ID of title, and I'm also going to define the placeholder, so enter title, right? So let's grab this one and paste it down here. I'm going to change that label to be description. So this should be the description here, and the ION, and I also want to place here the description. However, just change that D. So this should be the text area. I'm going to add up here. So the text area should have the closing and the ending. So I'm going to wrap this one. I don't need this type of text here. So keep the class here, and I also need to change that ID into this. So that's all. Now last thing that we are left is the button here, and create the type of submit. So this should have the button of type of submit. Let's create the class of bdn dash dark, and I also need to give bdn dash block and save underscore button, which I later on gonna configure that. Just keep that removed for now so you guys couldn't be not confused. So let's submit that and check this out that everything looks good. Now if I go back and refresh this here, and you see here we have created our title and the description. However, one thing is left is I need to change my placeholder to be description. So just grab this from here and paste it up here, and let's go back. Right, so we are done with our layout part. We have done the migration. We have implemented the very basic environment for our pusher application. So right, so in the next video I'm going to insert that data and save that into the database, and hopefully the last part is where we're going to implement the pusher real-time notification. So that's it guys. I'm going to take a very short break and I will be right back. Alright guys, so let's back and add the task listing here. So you see I have changed the name of the application now, pusher underscore app, so don't confuse with that. And you can also rename that because we are working on the pusher. Alright, so let's go inside your resources views and inside your dashboard.blade.php. That's where we have to first add our title and description and insert in our database. So as you could see here inside my layouts, as I shown you already, that right down here I have defined stack JavaScript, In my other videos, I also explained that. So basically, it's used that just like the extends, that you can just add up your layouts for your master and extend that into your screen for the dashboard or the other files. And just like that here for the scripts, those scripts that I required for this file should push up here. So if I just add up here push and add the same name that I have passed inside my stack, so just add up here and also and push here, right? So if I just simply write here dollar document, just to show you guys what actually it means, I need to actually wrap that inside the script and just grab it from here and dollar document dot ready function. All right, so let's add some alert just to figure out everything works well, right? Now, if I go back to my Chrome browser, refresh this, and you could see here, one. Now, if I just control U, down here, you could see that whatever I pass inside the stack, which we have pushed, and you see it's all down to my scripts. It should be inside, and everything wrapped it inside the script. So this is the beauty of push or stack, right? Okay, so let's write our functionality. First, we have to work with the validation, and as well as with the help of jQuery validate. Make sure you add up that here, which is jQuery.validate.min.js. So this is basically done all from here, right? So right inside here, I'm going to pass here the class, which is safe_bdn. I also need to add this token for CSRF. So right underneath that, I also, okay, it's fine. All right, defined up here, right? So right after the container of my form dash container, actually it should be form, don't give it the div, right? So I define that form dash container, which should be ending right after this div. All right, so it should be form. All right. Okay. Right, so right inside my scripts, I need to define here first the click functionality. Like first I click on here, so let's pass here the class of dot save_bdn. In order to access the class, we use dot. So it should be save_bdn, and I'm going to implement here dot on click. And let's add here the function. Let's pass the event as well. So I'm going to add the event. If this video is long for you, you can skip that and watch what you needed. But I want to explain those things right from the scratch for all the beginners that are new here, right? So if I just again pass here the alert just to check this out, refresh this here, and yeah, if I click on the submits button, you see the alert works, right? Okay, so just skip that. We are working with that now. Next thing I need is the title. So let's title equal to, and grab the ID for the title that I pass in, and in order to get its value, simply use .val. Same case for the description. So description equal to the ID of the description, right? Okay, so we need a form as well. So const form equal to dollar this. So this is gonna add everything inside here. So this dot parents of form. So everything that is inside the form, it's going to grab this all, right, which is inside this form variable. Now what I'm going to do is $form. In order to validate that, just simply use dot validate method, and inside that validate method we have some rules. So let's define that inside here. So rules, and inside rules we have our title, which should be required. I'm just only giving the title to be required. If you have description, you can give too. So title of required, which should be like, actually I need to wrap this inside parentheses. So we have rules, we define required to be true. Next, after the title, or even after, I think that's fine. If you need that, or you can give the message as well if you want. So message colon title should be the title is required. I'm only giving the title to be required. You can add that to your message if you want. So right after the message, we have something which is known as submit handler. So right like the camel case, we have the function in. So right inside here, I'm going to define my form data equal to new form data, and let's pass here the form of index 0, means that we need the form only. So in order to get the form, we have to pass the form index of 0, right? So this should be the form. Now we have to define our Ajax. So $.Ajax. We are all working with the without page refreshing. So it's an insertion. So you could also learn about that too. So define here type of post. Now let's add the URL. Let's give it the name of save_task. And we have to pass the form data that we pass in. Next, we have our, you can also define process data if you want. So process data of false, and let's define the content type also false. All right, so and next we have the success function. That's where the things works in. So we pass here the data, and that's all coming from the controller. So if that data is successful, so this is going to submit that, else it's going to show us the error or something else what I'm going to show you. So now the next thing that I'm going to do is let's first create the URL for the save_task. So I'm going to go to my routes right inside the web.php. I'm going to go underneath that. So these are all the routes which are already defined, nothing else. It's going to be a bit confusing. So say, yeah, that's fine. Okay, it's save_task. So let's create here a route of type post because we are saving the data. So let's define here save_task, and I'm going to grab this from the top. I don't need to write that all. So I'm going to grab this one and add up here and put the comma right after that. And I also need to change the name of the method should be, oops, actually I did wrong. Sorry about that. I need to paste it right here. So it should be here. No need of single quotes. So I need to change the method name of save_task, and I don't need to add this inside our user controller. So I need to create here a controller. So I need to open up my terminal. So let's add up here PHP artisan make controller task controller, right? So I created that, just close that up here and change that to the task controller. All right, so let's go to the controller app HTTP controllers, and that should be the task controller. So I'm going to create here a function. So public function save_task, and that's where we are, right? So that's what we are going to do here and implement that. So we have to define a few things inside this model. The first thing that we need here is we need to include our use app / model / and we have to bring our task in. Same here, we have to also bring up our message model, which we needed later on. So I'm going to also add the message. We have to save the message as well as the tasks. So tasks are those things which give us the message, yes, something is inserted, right? So right inside here, I need to pass the request. So I have added that up here, and right inside our save_task, I need to define $task equal to new task. All right, so $task -title equal to $request, and let's simply define here, it should be like this, and define our title. I'm going to paste it up here. So the next is the description. All right, so let's put that inside here as well. So this should be the description. Next, I also need to do here is I need to get that title. In order to get the title, I need to pass the request. And I need to pass this inside the message model where we have to show our notification with the pusher. So I'm going to also create here a message new object for the message. And we also need to save the message. At the same time, the tasks are saved. And I also need to save the message information. So $message from is basically something where the user which is logged in, I need to get its ID. So in order to get its ID, simple method is auth user ID, right? Next, we have our, so this is going to be the ID. In order to get its ID, I also created here a variable $ID and get it from the message from, right? What actually it means, I need to get whatever the ID is saved inside here, I need to save this inside my $ID, which I need to get later on for my, once I'm going to work with the pusher, and we have to pass this inside the data and show us. If you don't understand that, just write it up here and you will know. Next, we have to $message. I also need to save the message, which is coming from the title that I passed on top. So basically, this is the request, which is coming from here. And it's saved inside the title. So I need to save the same message, right? So this is the message. This is the ID which I'm getting from, right? So that's all I need. And I also need to just simply save that. That's all from the message side. Now I also need to save the task. So for this case, I need to simply add here if condition. So if the tasks are saved, let's add the method and simply return the response. And the response is in the form of JSON. All right, and I need to pass two things here, the status, which I need to have if it's true. And I also need to pass here the message, which should be saying that task added successfully. All right, so that's the part. We have defined the task, we have defined the message. So this is all from here, right? So the next thing that I'm going to do is we have to show the status. Now I need to go back to the dashboard. Right inside the success function data, I need to see, or I just need to console in order, if we get some error, we can easily identify. And right after that, so if there is some data, if data.status true means if that condition meets, so I need to do here is I need to pass the notification, which I have created inside my message. As you see, once you register the user, it shows you the notification. So I'm going to grab it from my register.blade.php file. So let's grab this one and paste it right up here. You can format your code if you want. So I'm going to do exactly that same thing. So this is the notification div and fades in. And I need the background color to be green if it's successful. And the message which is coming from my response, which is, if I go to my task controller, you see here is the message. So how I can grab this is simply data.message. All right, so in the case, if that data status is true, means if it's successful, if there's no error, so it's going to reach to the status. Right, so I also need to clear the message. So for this, I need to wrap inside dollar and simply add the single quotes, pass here in the name equal to title. All right, and in case of tax area, there's a very slight difference. Just grab this one here, and I need to pass that tax area outer. So text area and change that name equal to description. All right, so that's cool. I need to see if I have passed my name. So also add here name equal to title, and add up here the description as well. All right, so that's all you need here. So I have added up the validation, we have cleared the data, and on the other case, if it's not successful, so I'm going to add up here else condition, and I'm going to grab everything from here. I'm going to show you where this is coming from, this not if div. Basically, I created that custom. If you go to your master.blade.php, and inside my body tag, I define this notification div, and that's how I can grab this by hash. And this is basically the CSS styling for this notification div. That is all custom created. And that fades in and shows the background color green and show the message is coming from. And after 3 seconds, it's going to fade out, right? So that's all custom notification. A very beautiful message. But this is not actually pusher. This is just for displaying the message so it looks more neater and cleaner. Now here I need my color to be red because if that something went wrong. So here I can show a message like something went wrong, let's suppose. All right, so this should be the set timeout and all that in. So it's the ending of the else, and right after this bracket is basically coming from the success function, and we also generate the error function here. So error function, and let's pass here the error or anything you could pass here. So let's add console.log and wrap this error inside here. All right, so we have done this part, and let's test this out what we face. So if I go back to, and I need to open up my inspect and go to my console, and just refresh this if there is some any bracket problem. So far no. Right, so let's add up here some test title and the description. Submits that. Yeah, it's showing us some error. CSRF, it says the token mismatch error. All right, so in order to fix that, all you need is to already have defined this mismatch token error in my login.blade.php. You need to go to that file inside the pages and just simply grab this Ajax setup and just paste it up here right after the click function. All right, so simply define up here, and now if I just want to test this out, so refresh this, and if I just try to simply submit that, yeah, the field is required, validation is working. Now if I click on this submits button, and if I go back to the save underscore task, it shows that auth not found, so we need to define that. So let's go to our task controller and define our use auth. All right, so we can figure this out later once we get more errors. So now if I just try to again test the title and the description, submits that, and you see the task added successfully and with the response of true, the status is true, right? So let's go back to the database and check if everything inserted successfully. I'm going to go to my database, and first I'm going to look at my task. The title and the description, it's inserted successfully. And now if I go to my messages, and that should you see here the ID which is 1 and the message which is test, and the by default message which is underscore read to be 0, right? So we are done with the insertion for the message in the other part, right? So now let's come back to the most important prospect, which is the pusher. So right after the message where the message says, I need to add the pusher, right? So we have something which is known as options, which you could see inside the documentation as well. So we need to define our pusher. So it should be new pusher. All right, so right inside that we have to define the cluster. So cluster should be AP2. You can also get it from the .env if you want. You can bring up your environments here if you can do this easily. Or you can do the way that I'm doing. We can change the code practices later on, better coding. First, we have to implement that. So use TLS and make that to be true. All right, so we are actually getting an error. It says something that the expecting a bracket. So dollar options, actually it should be, it's not the pusher, it should be the array, right? So we just need to bring up our array, right? So right after the options here, we have to define the pusher. So pusher equal to new pusher, and we have to bring up our environments. It's very simple. All you need is env and just simply single quotes that and bring up your pusher. Even you can grab it from the documentation if you want. Let me check this out. So these are the options, and this is the pusher app ID. We need the key first. So just grab the pusher app key, right? So right after that, we need to bring up our environments in. That should be in lower case. And I need to also add one more. So the first one should be the pusher app key, the secret. You can add in any way, but I'm just doing it. So pusher app secret, and the last is the pusher app ID. So I'm going to grab this in and paste it up here, right? Now we have to pass the data to our front end. So $data equal to, I'm going to pass here, let's give it the name of data from, and we have to get that ID. So you remember, as I explained, that we have to pass the ID for that user. So message that from, this is basically the ID that I'm gonna put that inside our $ID, which is the ID. So which is the ID that is for the authenticated user. So I pass it inside the $data, but that's not only gonna do. We have to push the trigger in. So for that, so $pusher dash a trigger. We have to trigger the pusher, and let's give it the name of my dash channel. Make sure whatever you name here, it should be passed it to our broadcast, pass it to the channel that we created. And the name of the event, which is my dash event, and we have to, last thing that we need is to just pass the data. Remember, it's going to show us the ID of the user, authenticated user. So I'm going to go to my dashboard.blade.php. right after, or I need to define it right inside here. So what I'm going to do is $document.ready function. Right after that, I'm going to create here let my ID, or just remove that. We don't need that yet. So I need to do here is define the pusher. So let pusher equal to new pusher. All right, so what I'm going to do is define, if I go to my documentation right up here, let me grab this one from here. So make sure it should be, the ID should be the same. It should be C5, or I need to go to my .env just to verify C5. Yeah, it should be your pusher app key, right? So I'm going to go to my dashboard.blade.php, and I'm going to remove this from here. Simply add that. All right, so pusher equal to new app. Next, I need to add the channel. So for this, so variable channel equal to pusher dot subscribe to the channel that we created. And remember, the channel that we created is with the name of my dash channel. If I'm gonna go and show you, it should be my dash channel. And if I go to my task controller, you see here, whatever I trigger, it should be same here. It should be we have to subscribe the channel. Next thing that I need here is we need to bind the channel. So channel dot bind, and here I need to pass the event. So it should be my dash event, right? You understand here? So we have to push the trigger. It contains the channel and the event, and then we passed in here. We bind the event, and we have to now we have to see the data that we bind in. So I'm going to add here the function, and let's pass here the data in here. And just to verify this, everything works well. So I'm going to alert this JSON dot and define a stringify, and let's show the data that is coming in. So if I need the ID, first we have to see the data that is coming in. And let's just make sure spellings are right. Stringify, right? Okay. Now if I go back to my authentication panel, let me just make this a bit better. Now let's add here test, and the title and the description submits that. We're actually getting an error. Yeah, because we haven't defined the pusher on top. So pusher not found. I need to go to my task controller and define the pusher here. So use pusher slash pusher. All right. That's all you need. Now if I go back and refresh this, let's add here test for the title and the description. Click on the submit button, and still we are having some error. It says here, so app key not in the cluster. Please, did you forget to specify the cluster in? So I need to check this out. All right, so let's go to our controller, task controller, and just to see that everything works well. So we passed in our, inside the pusher, I forget to bring up here the options. So let me add that up here and refresh this. And submits that. And here we are, right? So you see here from 1. So this is the ID of the user that we have passed. So now we have implemented the pusher, and the task also added successfully, but we are left with the counter. You see it's still 0, it's static because we haven't defined in our my.nav.play.php, which is static value of 0. Now we have to do here is, as long as I submit something from here, it's gonna add and save it to our database. Also shows the notification real time and broadcast that. So that's gonna done in the last part of this section. So I'm gonna take a short break and I will be right back. Alright guys, so welcome back here. So hopefully this is going to be the last part of this video. So you see here we have a counter notification which is default 0. Plus I noticed one more thing here. As long as I add and submit something, it's inserted to the database, but it's not cleared off. So the reason why, if I just gonna go to my resources views and let's go inside my dashboard.blade.php, I need to clear that by adding .val, and same case for here, .val, right? And now if I go back and refresh this and add the test title and the description and submits that, and hopefully this is gonna refresh for now. Not yet still. The name of the spellings were wrong, so it should be a text area, and I also missed one thing here. I need to add this single quotes right into it. All right, so let's look and try for the last time, right? So this is gonna be test, submits that, and I'll press OK, and there we are, right? So it's refreshed. So I need to just simply remove this alert for now. We are good to go. So we bind the event, right? Okay, so now before I should jump directly to it, I need to write a query for my counter, how it's going to work. So I'm going to go inside my user controller, because that is something which is displayed inside my user model, a user table. So I need to go to my user controller. So app controller, user controller, and that's the view that I pass in. This is the dashboard, and that's where I need to write up a query. So before I should write a query here, I need to define my model in first. So we are using here use DB, a raw query, because we are using some stuff like counter, which make things easier to write a query. So let's write up here. So I need to define my variable with the name of notification equal to, let's define here DB colon select, and that is basically what I need to display here. So I need to define here, it should be select. Let's wrap this inside double quotes. So select users.id, And I also need to define here users dot first name. You can also do here is that if you need to display everything, you can simply use users dot static, but I'm happy with that, what I'm doing. So users dot last name, users dot email, and make sure everything looks fine. I need to put the semicolon right after that. And I need to count all those messages which are unread. So is underscore read is the name of the column. And I just give it the name of, I use aliases and give it the name of unread from users. But this is from the message table. So I need to write up another query right after that. So from users, I need to use here left join. And the reason why, because we have to use join with the messages. That's where we have the join with the message dot from with the users table. So which is basically a foreign key, messages dot from, if you see. So we are saving in. So if I go to my database and just want to show you, so basically what the relationship is, that this from anything that exists with this ID and the user ID which matched up, it show all the count and count those is underscore read, the messages which are unread, count them all and show us on our notification counter on a navbar. So I'm going to have a join with the messages. So left join messages on, and that's where we have to define with the users.id equal to the messages dot from, and I also need to check that the messages are all unread. So messages dot is underscore read, where the messages have the status of 0, and that's all, right? And we have to see on based off the ID of the user. So where users.id is equal to that ID of the authenticated ID. So dot auth ID, right? And I need to put that dot here. All right, so let's go back and define our group by. And whenever we use count, we have to define group by users. Actually, I need to define here users dot ID. And now if I just try to dump and die, and I think there are some mistake with the query, just to check this out. And if I write and go back to my authentication, yeah, we have an error. It says user dot first name isn't in group by. So I need to go back here. So let me add up here user dot first name, and I also need to define users dot last name. Yep, and let also define the users dot last name, because we have defined all those information here in the Slack query. So make sure you define that also inside your group by. So it's still saying isn't in users dot email isn't in a group by. Actually, it should be email. And you see here, we get the result. We say that all the unread messages here are 7. We have the ID of 1. Means that with that ID of 1, we are able to grab the unread messages for that user, right? All right, so now let's go back to we are getting the right query. We have unread messages counter of 7, and we have our first name, last name. We have the ID in. So I'm going to do here is, let me just make this a bit zoom for you. All right, so let's go to the navbar, and we have created that inside my resources, views, layouts include nav.blade.php, and that's where we have. And that's 0 is what you see on your screen, which is by default 0. Now we have to loop our data. And in order to loop our data, we need to just simply, I need to remove this from here, and we have to compact or pass the data. So we also need, okay, just keep that for now. I need to compact it, And so let's define here notification, and we have to pass it the variable, right? And right inside my nav.blade.php, I need to pass here right after the mr-auto, we have to use here loop of data $for each, which is basically notifications that were passed in as $key. And we have to see here inside the li, I need to do one more thing here. So I need to pass here the ID as well. I don't need the user. So let me add here the ID and pass here the ID for the user. All right, and right after the anchor tag, we have a drop down here, and inside a class, we have to fa-bal, that's the bal that we see in. And right here, we have to apply here the condition that if that key of message, all the unread messages should be shown, right? So right after that, I need to use end if, and we have to also end our loop right after the li. All right, so now if I go back and refresh this, still it's going to show me the counter notification 0, right? And the reason is because we have to write here $key and show me all the unread messages. All right, so refresh this and you see now it's 7, but it still have some more tricks to do. So if I click on the submits button, yes, the task added successfully, but I still need to refresh this. Yes, it's trigger and broadcast, but we have to show the counter on real time. So I need to go to my dashboard.blade.php, and that's where we have to define a condition inside our once the event fires off. So, all right, so we have to check if that data is coming, like if data.from, and I need to create here a variable with the name of pending equal to and parse in, so we can add the pending data. And let's pass here jQuery in hash concatenate the ID data.from, which is coming in, and we need to find the class for the pending, so which is .pending, which is coming from the nav.blade.php, as you could see here, right? And next thing I'm going to do is let's add the .html. All right, so let me alert this and check this out. All right, so I refresh this and let's add here test, and just to check the record. It submits in, and you see here now we have 8, and it should add with the +1. Now we are getting the results in, we are getting the 8 pending records, but we need to add that. Now what I'm going to do here is let's add here, apply here a condition. Oops, it should be in. So if the pending records are in, I'm going to copy it from here, almost very much identical. However, the difference is I don't need that. So if that in, and I also don't need this parse int. So let's add here $data.from, and we have to find the pending class, but here inside the HTML, I need this to be added up. This bracket should be n. Now inside here, I need the pending +1. Means for the ID of 1, we need the pending results to be added with 1. Now if I go back and refresh this, and this hopefully gonna work now. Now if I just try to submit that, and you see now the records are 10 without page refreshing. Now if I add another one and try to submit that, now you see the counter notification is 11. But there is one issue that you could see here. Now if I just want to clear all my tasks, right? Not the task, basically it's all coming from the messages. So I'm going to go to my messages and clear everything from here. If I deleted everything from here, now if I go back and refresh, and you see there's no more notification, but if I just try to submit that, the task ended successfully, but the counter is 1 for now. But if I just refresh this, and now it shows me 1, now if I keep adding that, now it will work fine. But for the very first attempt, it's not gonna add us. The reason why, what I want here is, if outside of this pending condition, I need to have here another case, which is the else condition. So right inside that, let me add this one from this ID. If the ID that is coming in, I need to pass the HTML, and let's add the anchor tags in and closing and the ending, just like that. And right inside this, I need to grab all the classes which I have passed in. So it should be like this. I need to pass it here like that. So right after this, we have an I tags I'm gonna do with that way, so there is very less margin of errors. You can copy paste if you want. And inside my I tags, I need to grab its classes. All right, so right inside here, we have another tag, which is the span tag. So let me add that too. And the closing span tag. So by default, it should be showing me 1. So there is no error for the first time, right? Now, if I go back and refresh this, and actually I'm getting some error, and it says something for the tags. All right, so I have my anchor tag in the starting and the ending. We have a class of nav link. And then I have here the, So first there is a closing tag of span. So .html, I need to wrap this all inside the single quotes. So let me add like this. Now, if I just try to go back and refresh, and still I think I have added 2 notifications. Now if I just clear that all, now if I just add it now for the very first attempt and submits that, and you see now we have the counter notification 1, right? So this is how nicer and cleaner is that. Now if I just try to log out and add another user, let me register another user. And if I just try to register that, and now if I try to log in with that, now it must have the counter notification 0, because this is the new user. This notification belongs to that user, and you see nothing happens here. Now if I just try to add test for the very first time, you see here the counter notification 1. Let me add another one and submits that, and you see now it has counter notification 2. So right, so how good is that? How simpler is that? This is how we can work with the push a notification. Now you see this is a real time. Now if I just try to add this into the another, and this is going to broadcast as well. So if you see here test, and if I just try to submit that, actually it's close up, and you see here 3, and right up here it's also showing me 3, right? So how nicer and cleaner is that? So you can actually figure out those spaces in if you want, and the reason why, because we are actually getting here for the, if I just try to refresh this is gonna keep me here, and if I refresh this, so this is gonna keep me right up here. So you need to fix that if you want a very minor, you can add those spaces inside your navbar. But that's it, guys. So I hope you guys learned something out from here. So I'm gonna we're gonna work with that in the next phase of this push a notification. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I want to see you for the next time.